There's a reason why she flinches when your name is mentioned. A reason why she watches you from a distance, yet prays you never turn around and see her. She once tried to break you, Capricorn. She put her energy into your downfall. But now, she's the one trembling. And you're rising higher than ever before. Welcome, Capricorn soul. Your arrival here is not by accident. This is your cosmic summons, a sacred moment in time, where the veil between what was and what truly is begins to dissolve. You've carried pain in silence. You've questioned the way certain chapters ended. You've asked yourself, why did things fall apart when I gave my all? But deep down, your intuition has whispered. There was more going on, things unseen. Energies you couldn't name, forces that interfered. And now, the truth rises. A woman from your past, once confident she could sever your light, is now haunted by what she couldn't destroy. She senses something terrifying to her. You survived. And worse for her, you're glowing. But who is she? And why, despite everything, is she still magnetized to your energy? This isn't just a story of betrayal. This is the karmic echo of your strength. And today, we're pulling back the curtain. So stay close. Because by the end of this revelation, you won't just understand what happened. You'll know exactly why it never had the power to break you. Part 1. The Cosmic Appointment. If you're watching this right now, Capricorn, it's because your soul called it into being. There are no coincidences in the spiritual realm, only divine timing. You didn't just click on this video. You were summoned. Because right now, a hidden thread is tugging at your awareness. A truth you've long felt, but couldn't explain. A subtle disturbance in your past that still echoes into your present. You've sensed it before, the sudden shifts in your relationships, the tension that seemed to appear out of nowhere, and a strange heaviness when thinking about a certain chapter that ended too abruptly. You tried to rationalize it. You blamed yourself. You thought maybe you weren't enough. But in reality, it wasn't about what you lacked. It was about what you represented. Capricorn, your very presence, your groundedness, your power, your emotional depth was too much for someone else to bear. And when they couldn't match your energy, they did the only thing their insecurity knew how to do: interfere. And this woman, the one we're about to uncover, she didn't just step into your story by accident. She entered with intent. She stayed with motive. And she acted with fear. But the universe, in its infinite balance, has kept the receipts. And today, we begin to reveal them. So take a deep breath. Because once you see the pattern, you'll never fall for the same trick again. Life lesson: what Capricorn must remember. Capricorn, here's the truth. Not everyone was sent to love you. Some were sent to shake you, so you could remember how rooted you really are. You are ruled by Saturn, the great teacher of time, karma, and responsibility. So when people betray you, when situations crumble, it's never random. Those moments, though painful, are spiritual checkpoints. They ask, will you abandon yourself, or rise into your truth? And you, even when trembling, chose to rise. This part of your story is about more than just exposing someone else's fear or manipulation. It's about you finally seeing what your energy does to people, especially those who can't control it. You intimidate not because you're aggressive, but because you're unshakable. Your silence scares the loud. Your structure exposes their chaos. Your loyalty reflects their disloyalty. And those who come into your life with false intentions can't survive your truth for long. This is your power. You don't need revenge. You just need clarity. Because once you see clearly, you never go back. Part 2. Her hidden fear. She never said it out loud. But every time your name entered the room, her energy shifted. This woman, the one whose presence once felt distant, maybe even insignificant, held a secret. And that secret was you. You may not have realized it then. She may have smiled in public, acted unbothered, or pretended she never saw you as a threat. But beneath that surface calm, there was a storm of insecurity. Because what she saw in you, Capricorn, was everything she lacked. Your discipline. Her chaos couldn't compete. Your integrity. It made her games crumble. Your grounded, loyal nature. It exposed how shallow her connections were. And so, what began as quiet envy morphed into silent fear. Not of what you did, but of who you were and what you reflected back to her. You became a mirror she couldn't bear to look into. A mirror that showed her she wasn't in control. She couldn't manipulate him like she thought. She would never be able to replace the bond he had with you. So what did she do? She didn't walk away. She stayed and interfered. Behind the scenes, energy was moving. Words were spoken, intentions were cast. Whether consciously or not, she targeted your light, hoping to dim it, to sever the bond between you and the man whose soul was still tied to yours. But what she didn't count on was that your energy wasn't easy to break. Life lesson: what her fear reveals about you. Here's what most people don't realize, Capricorn. When people fear you without reason, it often means you've triggered a truth inside them they've been avoiding. You didn't intimidate her by being cruel. You intimidated her by being whole. And wholeness is confronting to people who are still scattered. Her fear is proof that your presence carries weight. Your calm unsettles chaos. Your boundaries disrupt manipulation. Your consistency burns holes in false personas. And while she tried to break you, she was really running from herself. So the lesson is this: you don't have to defend your power. Just keep standing in it. Because those who can't meet it will either rise to it or run from it. And both are revelations. Part 3: The energetic sabotage. It wasn't a coincidence. The sudden distance. The unexplained silence. There was a hand, unseen but deliberate, shifting the ground beneath your feet. Capricorn, let's go back. There was a time when things felt stable. Maybe not perfect, but anchored. You were connected to someone who saw something rare in you. There was depth. There was resonance. There was unspoken understanding. But suddenly, the connection fractured. Not because of something you said. Not because of something you did. But because a third energy stepped in, quietly, manipulatively, and with intent. That woman, the one we spoke of earlier, wasn't just passively jealous. She intervened. She saw what you had and couldn't stand not being the center. So she whispered just the right lies, twisted just the right truths, and moved just enough shadows behind the curtain to make him question you. Whether she did it with words, with silence, or with energy, she aimed to disrupt. You may not have seen it clearly then, but the aftermath was undeniable. Doubt crept into the relationship. Miscommunication bloomed from nowhere. Trust cracked without explanation. You were left questioning your own intuition, while someone else was orchestrating your fall from afar. But make no mistake, this was sabotage, and it was designed to make you disappear. Yet, here's what she didn't expect. You may have felt lost, even betrayed. But you didn't break. You woke up. Life lesson: when they weaponize energy against you. Capricorn, in the spiritual world, attacks aren't always loud. Sometimes, they come through subtle sabotage, disguised as misunderstandings or bad timing. But here's your power. You're ruled by Saturn, the great cosmic builder. Even when others chip away at your foundation, you know how to rebuild it stronger. So what's the lesson? Not every shift in your life is your fault, but it is your responsibility to reclaim your power. Yes, someone tried to block your connection. Yes, they manipulated the situation. But the deeper truth: they could only succeed because you still had parts of yourself that were too trusting, too open to people who hadn't earned your heart. This experience wasn't just sabotage, it was a soul lesson. A test of your discernment. A call to fortify your boundaries and sharpen your inner radar. Because next time someone comes with false light, you'll know exactly how to spot it. And you won't hand over your energy so easily again. Part 4: The man between worlds. He may be silent now, but silence doesn't mean absence. Not when the bond was real. Let's talk about him, the man who once stood at the center of it all. The one who felt your energy like a lighthouse in a storm. The one whose soul recognized something in you that was deeper than words, something sacred. But also, the one who slipped away. Not because he stopped caring, but because he got pulled into the noise. Because when that woman, the saboteur, sowed doubt and confusion, he didn't have the clarity to see through it. And instead of choosing depth, he chose ease. He chose silence over speaking up. He chose distance over truth. He chose her interference over your connection. But now, Capricorn, here's the part he didn't expect. Even with her around, even with the silence, he can't shake your energy. It lingers in his thoughts. It shows up in quiet moments, in music, in dreams, in the way other people just don't connect the way you did. He may not reach out. He may not say a word. But you're still there. Because what you gave wasn't surface level. It was spiritual architecture, and now, without you, he's living in a structure that's missing its foundation. And whether he admits it or not, he feels the absence of your presence. Life lesson: when someone can't forget you. Capricorn, here's something many don't understand about your energy. When you love, you build. And when you build, you leave a blueprint in someone's soul. Even if they try to forget, that architecture remains. You don't connect for fun. You connect for real. You offer stability, loyalty, and emotional depth that others can't fake and certainly can't replace. So what's the lesson here? If someone walked away from you because they were deceived, that's their soul lesson, not yours. They chose the illusion. They listened to the noise. And they didn't protect what was sacred. But you did. So don't chase after ghosts, Capricorn. Don't shrink yourself hoping they'll remember what they lost. Because they already do. And if they ever return, it must be on your terms. From a place of truth. And only if it aligns with the peace you've fought to reclaim. Part 5. The Collapse and Awakening. They thought they broke you. But really, they awakened the part of you that never needed them. Capricorn, let's not sugarcoat it. That betrayal hurt. It wasn't just a relationship ending. It was the shattering of a space you built with your bare soul. You gave loyalty and were met with lies. You offered presence and were met with absence. You stood steady while others threw stones. And in the aftermath, there was silence. Not just around you, but within you. There were days when it felt like the ground was gone. Like you were walking through fog, trying to find the version of yourself that used to believe in people. You questioned everything. Your worth. Your intuition. You even wondered if it had all been in your head. And yet, through the pain, something ancient began to stir within you. A voice that said, "You've been through worse. You've climbed higher mountains. And you were never meant to stay broken." So you began to rise. Not loudly. Not to prove a point. But quietly. Inwardly. With precision. You cut cords that no longer served. You sat with your grief like an old friend. And slowly, you began to remember that your power was never in being chosen by them. It was in choosing yourself. And that, Capricorn, was your awakening. Life lesson: the wisdom within rock bottom. Here's something most people miss. Rock bottom isn't your grave. It's your womb of transformation. You don't fall apart because you're weak. You fall apart because your soul is restructuring. You're not just healing. You're reclaiming. You're learning to build safety not in others, but in yourself. And that's what Saturn, your ruling planet, always intended for you. Not to punish, but to teach you how to stand on unshakable ground. So here's your wisdom. Pain will visit, but it's not permanent. Disappointment will break your heart, but not your spirit. And the people who tried to crush your light, they just reminded you how fiercely it burns. Your collapse wasn't your ending. It was your initiation. And now, you walk not in fear, but in clarity. Part 6. Karma returns. She sent chaos your way. And now the universe is echoing it back. Capricorn, there is a universal law that governs all energy, the law of return. What is sent out, always comes back. And while you were rebuilding in silence, she began to unravel. You see, the energy she projected, the lies, the manipulation, the disruption, wasn't just an emotional act. It was an energetic imprint. A ripple sent into the spiritual realm. And now, that ripple is circling back. She may not speak of it, but the signs are clear. Restless nights, broken relationships, a deep sense of unease that follows her. A life that looks fine on the outside, but is cracking at the core. Because when you try to destroy someone anchored in truth, you don't just fail, you trigger your own collapse. She tampered with energy she didn't understand. And now, her own fears are manifesting in real time. The same separation she created. She now feels it in her own connections. The same instability she injected into your life. It's now planted in hers and growing like weeds. And the most haunting part, your energy is still present in her reality. Not because you want it to be, but because she can't escape what she tried to destroy. Life lesson, you don't need revenge. Because karma is precise. Capricorn, here's the wisdom. Karma doesn't rush, but it never misses. Your role was never to punish her. Your role was to survive her. Because when you survive manipulation without becoming bitter, when you heal without seeking retaliation, when you rise silently, you create the perfect mirror. And that mirror is terrifying to those who operate in deception. So what's the lesson? You don't need to prove she was wrong. You don't need to expose her. You don't need to pray for revenge. Because the most powerful justice is the life you're now living, free, grounded, and untouchable. Let karma do what karma does. Your job, stay aligned. Stay rising. Stay unbothered. Because while she's haunted by the shadow she created, you are walking in light she can't dim. Part 7. Unfinished Bonds. Time has passed, but something still lingers. And deep in his spirit, he knows it too. Capricorn, let's return to the man who once held space in your world. Even after everything, the silence, the interference, the collapse. His energy hasn't let go. No, this isn't about longing for the past. It's about acknowledging the spiritual truth. Some bonds aren't just emotional. They're energetic contracts. And his soul still feels yours. You may have sensed it. Sudden thoughts of him out of nowhere. Dreams that bring his presence to your subconscious. Random songs, memories, or synchronicities tied to his energy. That's not accident. That's not fantasy. That's resonance. Because while he chose distance, while he let others cloud his vision, his soul never stopped remembering you. Not fully. Not deeply. In fact, the more chaos he's lived with since, the more he feels the contrast between what he had with you and what he accepted in your absence. He sees now, even if he doesn't say it, you were the anchor. You were the truth. You were the thing he didn't know how to protect until it was gone. Life lesson, some energies remember you forever. Capricorn, here's the soul-level truth. When you offer someone a love built on loyalty, depth, and emotional truth, you don't just date them. You imprint on their spirit. You don't chase. You don't beg. You simply exist with presence, and that leaves a mark deeper than words. So what's the lesson? You don't need to reach back just because someone finally sees your worth. Not every bond that remains is one that should be revived. The spiritual memory is real. The connection may still pulse, but that doesn't mean it belongs in your present. Forgiveness is powerful, but so is discernment. And if he returns emotionally, energetically, or physically, the question isn't do you still care? It's does this align with the peace I've built? Because you're no longer the same Capricorn. You've evolved. You've healed. And your future deserves someone who chooses you the first time without needing the universe to shake them awake. Part 8. The Power Shift. You no longer wait for answers. You are the answer now. Capricorn, something has changed. Once, you were the one seeking clarity, wondering why things fell apart, hoping someone would come back and explain what went wrong. But not anymore. Now, you're the one with the clarity. You're the one who sees it all without needing them to confirm a thing. You see the manipulation for what it was. You see the interference as a reflection of her fear, not your failure. You see the silence from him not as rejection, but as redirection. And most of all, you've realized that you were never the fragile one. You were just the one willing to love deeply in a shallow world. But those days are done. Because now, the power has shifted. Now they feel the uncertainty. Now they wonder if they could ever get close to your energy again. Now they revisit the past while you're creating the future. And Capricorn, this shift isn't loud. It doesn't need to be. Because true power doesn't announce itself. It simply moves differently. Life lesson: your peace is now the priority. Here's the soul wisdom you've earned. You don't need closure from people who gave you confusion. You don't need apologies to validate your truth. You don't need reunion when you've already found reconciliation within yourself. The real shift: it's not that they regret. It's that you no longer need their regret to feel complete. That woman who once tried to break you, she's watching, still trying to grasp what you've become. That man who drifted from you, he's searching, but for something he may never find again. And you're finally free. Free to choose what enters your energy. Free to protect your peace with unapologetic strength. Free to say, I'm not angry. I'm not bitter. I just love myself too much to go backwards. This is your era of sovereignty. And no one touches that, unless they come correct, aligned, and ready to walk in truth. Part 9. The final lesson. Your highest evolution isn't revenge. It's the quiet peace of knowing you no longer need to prove anything to anyone. Capricorn, look at how far you've come. You started with questions. Now, you carry wisdom. You started with heartbreak. Now, you walk with grace. You started thinking they had the power. But the truth is, you were the mountain all along. Unmoving. Unshakable. Timeless. What they feared wasn't your anger. It was your endurance. It was your ability to rise, rebuild, and outgrow them. That woman trembles now because she knows. You saw through her. You survived her. And worst of all, she no longer has access to the version of you she tried to break. That man, he feels the void. Not because you're punishing him, but because you've become unavailable to energies that don't honor your worth. This is what Saturn, your ruler, teaches. The climb is hard. The lessons are painful. But the view from the top is reserved for those who didn't quit. And you didn't quit. You bled, but you didn't break. You cried, but you didn't collapse. You lost, but then you won yourself back. And that, Capricorn, is the final lesson. You were never meant to be understood by those who feared your strength. You were meant to rise above them, so they could finally see who you are from below. Closing, the mountain cannot be moved. You weren't broken, Capricorn. You were being reshaped into someone they can no longer reach. So now, take one last look back, not with sorrow, but with sovereignty. You were never too much. You were too real for people addicted to illusions. And that woman, the one who tried to disrupt your spirit, she fears you now, not because of what you did to her, but because nothing she did could truly touch you. She underestimated how deeply your roots run. She thought silence would destroy you. But your silence became your sword and your peace, your power. And the man caught in the middle? Let him remember. Let him reflect. But don't let him return unless he comes with the depth your soul now requires. You're no longer in the place they left you. You've ascended. And your presence now demands alignment, not apology. Final life lesson, the Capricorn Ascension. Capricorn, you were born under the sign of the mountain goat. And no matter how steep the climb, no matter how thin the air, you rise. They may chase your light. They may tremble at your name. But you protect your peace like a fortress now. You don't owe them access. You don't owe them answers. You only owe yourself the truth and the freedom to live it. Let this be the season where you forgive without reopening doors, release without resentment, and walk forward not with vengeance, but with vision. Because that's what makes you dangerous in the best way. You learn. You transform. And you never go back to the version of you they once had a chance with. Call to action. Subscribe to protect your power. If this message found you at the right time, if your spirit resonated, if you felt your own story hidden between these lines, then this is your space. And this is just the beginning. Subscribe to Zodiac Secrets Revealed because we don't just read stars. We uncover what they're trying to awaken in your soul. Every Capricorn journey is unique, but the wisdom, the strength, and the transformation. That's what we rise into, together. Tap subscribe now and claim your next revelation. Your mountain awaits.